for Clare supporters, and some of the decisions went against them. We're going to look at the red cards, but it's interesting that when the lads were looking at these, you said there's a case could be made for the black card to be introduced to hurling, which...
Yeah, I suppose, look, Des, we've been talking about this for...
Some of the diehards mightn't like to hear that.
Yeah. For the last while, but I suppose it just came up in conversation in that hurling's a really physical game, and we saw in a number of instances Wexford were really physical in the forward line, but throughout the game, having looked at it, we would have had to say that Clare maybe weren't getting away with a lot of the things they got away with last year. I'm not saying, or maybe referees were harsher on them, and they were less inclined to give them frees.
And you look at there, you know, Liam McGovern is doing a lot of hanging out of Brendan Bugler, and that's a learning curve in itself. I mean, when you're the underdog, you tend to get away with maybe a little bit of stuff like that. And Brendan Bugler knows himself. Look, a bit of frustration. He's been mauled asunder there, you know, and it's hard when that happens. It can be frustrating.
And let's face it, Eddie, like, the referees are only human as well, and I've seen it during my own career. Referees tend to go with the underdog, and definitely Clare would, in the games Clare are played this year, there is a tendency not to give them the breaks that maybe they were getting last
That was a red card.
Yeah, you'd have to say, you know, you'd love to say different. I mean, he doesn't strike with huge force, but it's more frustration than anything else. But here we have, you know, Jack Brown, who was, you'd have to say, heavily involved. Look, takes 2 big hits there, and look, doesn't give up on it, wins the ball back and comes out with it. And that was the match itself. It was played with great intensity. And you'd say, look, the issue with the colour of the card is, look, Jack Brown, that's his second one there, and we've seen Johnny Ryan, you know, composed himself. You could almost see the thought bubble coming on in his head. He knew the consequences of that. Barry Kelly got involved there when it looked like Johnny wasn't going to give him the second, and that's the kind of you know, the officiating you want to see, because if the ref misses something, then help him out. But look, I think there is a grievance in Clare. They'll feel that they didn't get the rub of the green when it comes to refereeing. And we saw in the very first clip, you know, Conor Ryan was fouled twice, and one of them was a fairly hefty tackle. You'd say maybe it possibly merited a card. But the problem is, when we bring in the argument in relation to the colour of the card, is that, look, if you had a black card when Clare were in that position, does it, you know, take the pressure off the ref just a little bit and say, look,
the sub couldn't come on?
Yeah, because, as I said, Johnny Ryan, you could quite clearly see by his body language, he knew the consequences of what was on the table for him there. And, you know, it was a decision that he was kind of backing away from just a fraction. And you just say that maybe a black card there, you know, whereas 13 men was going to be a huge ask for Clare after that.
Where the problem with it is, in addition to what Eddie is saying, it's the first yellow card, Des, that referees are issuing a yellow card for what's borderline. Jack Brown, who was outstanding yesterday, he showed a fantastic clip of defending from him, but the first yellow card was debatable. And then what happened was, when the second came around, it was a yellow. The problem is that the 2 yellow cards we're seeing in a lot of situations doesn't merit a team going down to 14 men. So within the broader spectrum of things, it's definitely worth looking at the black card. Now, hurling will have the benefit of being able to watch our football counterparts for 12 months.
Because of the incident last year, but the Henry Shefflin, it comes back into play, you know, to punish the team for an innocuous first yellow, and then, you know, the second one obviously then has, you know, it's going to have a bigger impact. So
okay, well, the debate is out there now.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so you'd both see a merit in it.
Well, there's merit in looking at it, definitely. It'll have to be teased out.
Okay.
We thought it would raise its head on light with the penalty thing going backwards, that had to be pulled down.
Okay, well, let's move on to